Tyler, you had the chance on Saturday to watch the Irish scrimmage for around 60 plays. Let's begin at the quarterback position. Did anybody separate themselves from the rest of the group?
I really don't think so, because it was a day where they all pretty much got the same amount of reps. So you figure, like you said, Darren, around 60 plays. I'd say we saw all three guys for about 20 plays each, and there were some good, some bad from all three of them. I think the highest ceilings that we saw probably came from CJ Carr and Kenny Minchey, just in terms of the plays that we saw from them. I think they had, for example, Kenny Minchey led the first touchdown drive of the day, and he made a couple nice plays where you're like, okay, yeah, he's sustaining a drive. He's getting Notre Dame into the end zone. And then the very last play of the scrimmage was CJ Carr just absolutely dropping a perfect dime into Elijah Burris in the back of the end zone. Notre Dame actually blitzed on that play. I want to say there were 6 or 7 guys just screaming at CJ Carr, and we'll get into the offensive line here in a minute. 6 or 7 guys going at Carr against this offensive line. I was thinking, oh no, he's going to get sacked, but he threw the ball up perfectly. Elijah Burris caught it in the back of the end zone. So those two guys I thought made some good plays, but then Steve Angeli was just steady, as we've seen him throughout his career at Notre Dame. So nothing really flashy or any splash plays or anything like that, but he didn't make turnover-worthy plays. Kenny Minchey threw a pretty bad interception, I think is worth noting. CJ Carr almost threw an interception. It was actually dropped by a defensive back. Steve Angeli didn't really put himself in those types of situations. So it all added up to not a whole lot of separation, to answer your question, Darren. It still feels like these three guys are trying to do exactly that. Just kind of get their neck out in front of the other and say, hey, maybe this is why I should start. I don't think that's really happened for Notre Dame yet. And as Marcus Freeman said in the press conference following that scrimmage, until that does happen, there's no need for him to name a starter. That needs to be clear and obvious. And right now it is not clear and obvious.
Tyler, when Kenny Minchey gets talked about, one of the first things we hear, tremendous athleticism. He has a very, very strong arm. How would you define where his passing skills are right now at Notre Dame?
I think it's more decision-making, honestly. So, like, when we see a bad pass from Kenny Minchey, it's probably because he made a poor decision. If he can get those reps under his belt to know where to pass it, when to pass it, where not to pass it, when not to pass it to those locations, then I think we see a better passing quarterback. So he's got arm talent, man. There's some videos that I've taken just for B-roll for this YouTube channel where I'm like, man, he can really kind of sling this thing. And then it still comes back to that decision-making stuff, though, because the offensive line, as I alluded to, not where it needs to be this spring, just because of injuries and guys who are being held out, because Notre Dame just played the longest season in college football history. It showed up in the scrimmage where I thought Kenny was maybe taking off a little too early, and that's always a recipe for disaster for a quarterback. Like, I go back to the CJ Carr thing. The fact that he stood in that pocket and made that throw, I guarantee you there's coaches and people who are making decisions here who are like, hey, that's what needs to happen on Saturdays. I don't know if Kenny Minchey is all the way there, maybe a little too over-reliant on his legs. Again, we haven't seen it in enough settings to know that that's going to be the case, but I'm telling you, if he can just get these reps under his belt, I think he does have enough arm talent to make all the throws, make the right throws. He just hasn't been in positions to showcase that. And look, when August 31st comes around, like that might be his first chance, or that might be CJ Carr's first chance. We won't really know who these guys are in that, line of fire until it happens. We sort of know that where Steve Angeli is at, but in terms of Kenny Minchey, it's all about just seeing defenses, knowing defenses, and by way of that, knowing where to pass it, where not to pass it.
So right now, quarterback competition, too close to call?
I'd say I still think it's a three-way competition. I really do. I think all three of these guys have attributes that could make themselves a starter, and maybe some guys are better than the two other, or one guy's better than the two others at a certain thing, and vice versa and whatnot. But it all has to add up, and like, you have to see enough positives in one of the guys to say he's better at all these things than those other two guys, and that's why he's going to be the starting quarterback.
Is it difficult for you to try to get a good feel where the quarterbacks are because the offensive line is such a makeshift group right now?
Absolutely. And if you look at the little scrimmage recap video that Notre Dame's official social media account put out, you saw all three of these quarterbacks running at different points in time. That was not because they are good athletes, and they are, some better than the others. Again, I just talked about how Kenny Minchey can run. I think CJ Carr's got escapability as well. We've even seen Steve Angeli do some decent things with his legs in actual games on Saturdays. But everything that you saw in those clips, that was all born out of necessity because these guys were under fire. The defensive line absolutely won the day on Saturday in that scrimmage, and ultimately that's a big reason why the defense won the scrimmage. And I don't know the point system that Notre Dame uses, but at the end of it, the defense won that scrimmage. These quarterbacks were kind of running for their lives, and it was kind of tough to see because it's not an indictment on where this offensive line is, but it's just a little bit of a shame that we don't get to see Notre Dame's full complement of offensive linemen out there working together. Because again, Emil Wagner's being held out, Anthony Knapp's being held out, Billy Shrout is being held out. Ashton Craig, the center, is out because he's still recovering with his knee from his knee surgery. So right now the offensive line is, some true freshmen are getting first team reps. There was a walk-on out there in the two deep in that scrimmage. So it's definitely tough. Marcus Freeman was asked about it in the post-game or the post-scrimmage press conference. Hey, how do you evaluate these quarterbacks? Because they're playing behind an offensive line that should look nothing like it's going to look against Miami in August. He gave the PR answer for sure, and backing up not only the quarterbacks but also the offensive line, and just basically saying, hey, this is what it is. We still have to look at these guys for what the situation is. But me, the media person that can kind of give you more commentary than Marcus Freeman is going to give you, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to look at these quarterbacks in this true competition that it is, when really Charles Jagasaw was the only projected starter out there protecting these guys in that scrimmage. And even he was worked off the ball a little bit by Jason Anye and some of these other tackles because, one, he rolled his ankle early in the scrimmage, and I'm surprised that he still worked through it. And two, he's working around a bunch of guys who he's not going to be working around this season. That's just the facts. And that makes, by definition, what we're seeing from these quarterbacks a little bit different than what we're going to see when it's time to actually play around the true 11 that they're going to play around this upcoming season.